What matters most to me, I guess, is that of the things I've manufactured or developed, they be considered to have some significance beyond practice items for me or a learning exercise for me, that somebody might perceive value in them in the future, or be inspired by them. Certainly my background of working with color and with media, teaching courses on media, painting media and techniques. Again, this is no great shakes of technique, but it's a demonstration of what I have known, practiced, and taught. I guess it's a common term to think that artists are all driven, and driven to the point of being manic in something. That's not the case with me. I think, I guess I'd say inspired or motivated are better terms for it. Well, the current work I'm doing on my unknown elements begins with watercolor. On the compositions that I've worked on here, I always begin a little bit of drawing, design of the layout of the element, if it's got lots of facets or it's a few simple circles or whatever. They're not all drawn out in before I begin. Sometimes I'll add, things superimposed over it. But basically begin transparently and then work opaque with opaque acrylics. The color theory aspect of it is all intuitive too. If I'm working with pinks, I know I'm not going to do it 100% pink composition. Somewhere there's got to be a neutral or a pale green in there to accentuate the pinks, and that I always have a hidden or suggested element of the complement of the color in it. Even when they're monochromatic, it's possible to have an intense yellow-orange and introduce a dull orange that's made with opaque paint, and the dullness is created by adding blue to the orange, so there's some complement inherent, even though one might first say it's an all-orange composition. Not that I'm a scientist or anything, but it fascinates me that we know this is what the universe is, we're told that's what the universe is made out of, and yet we really can't see those things in a pure form. That's what sort of led me to think about not only the existing elements, a lot of which we can't see, but is there another universe, another place where there's even more elements and the world's organized according to other forms. And of course, trying to suggest them with earthly materials like watercolor and acrylic is kind of absurd or whatever, but I sense that in current science, in terms of what we know about atomic structure for the elements, and we've learned about it, there are subordinate components, and they are organized in certain chains or links. So settling into a circular format as my model for all the unknown elements, circles within circles and discs within discs in different proportions of intensity, I think I could suggest that there are things that are similar but have very different structure and maybe very different results into how they are, what kind of world they would make up. Well, I taught courses in color for 40 years, along with drawing and painting courses, but color particularly. That brings me to sort of who I am today. It's curious that during that time, for most of the time in Hawaii, my use of color was pretty limited. I chose not to use it. Why? I guess just a personal decision. I think I've mentioned before that the color is so profuse and assaulting in the Hawaii environment that I think graphic and tonal variations are more appropriate. And maybe it has something to do with expounding upon color so much it seemed passé, or I went beyond that. I didn't need to deal with it. So it's kind of curious now that I'd say flipped around, but when I'm away from that, I said, oh, well, now I'm ready to explore the things that I hadn't practiced for a while. I never felt I had to teach anything where I didn't believe it or feel that it had real value for the students. I just tell them, be happy, enjoy this. This is a real privilege. It might be a Monday morning, even in Honolulu, and students drag themselves in and they look sleepy and sad, and you're going to ask them to draw from a still life. And they make it like, oh my God, you're asking me to lift weights for 3 hours, whatever. And you say, look we have a beautiful room here. You've got the privilege of air conditioning, comfort, you're sipping your coffee, you've had breakfast. And all you got to do is move your hand a little bit. Think of this, think of all the people, rest of the people in the world who have nothing, and you have the privilege of doing this, so let's enjoy it. Don't make it like this is mortuary science or something. My brother was a graphic artist, and he sort of encouraged me by example, and sometimes would pull me alongside and say, well, why don't you try this, or have you thought about that? So I think he was an influence on me in that way. And I had a aunt who was a university professor. I didn't see a lot, but she dabbled or took some art classes, and she encouraged me with just either be it compliments or little gifts, creative things that she gave me instead of typical toys that people had. There were ceramics and chemistry kits and things like that. This work could be considered a good portrait of me. It encompasses so many features of my life and of prior artwork that I've done. My idea of working intuitively and letting the media and the process of invention happen gradually, and not to predetermine everything, so I'm just filling in a composition. Culmination of this would make a provocative and interesting display Whether or not I'll get to display it all or what it turns out to look like, that remains to be seen, but it's exciting to me, so I would certainly like to share it.